Yeah. So welcome everyone. This week's prayer by the mother is June 18th, 1913. And I'm hoping a few of us may have read or gone through the talk by Dr. Alok Pandey on this prayer. So inviting the reflections first, if you could just share whatever resonated, and if there is anything, would you like to kind of take it up in today's discussion? Yeah. Who would like to share first?
Yeah, I'll go, Monica.
Yes, please.
Yeah. When I read this prayer first, actually, yes, it is really that unwavering faith. No, it's very much essential to pursue the path. Yeah, that is there. And then I gone through that Alok Pandey's talk. No, that in that talk he told about a story. No, about a husband and a wife who is traveling in a boat. They met the storm. Then he was very quiet, but she's full of agitation and fear. Then he proved with his, I mean, when he put the sword in her neck, and she was very calm. That time he told, how you are calm, I am also calm now. Because that is a beautiful story. So actually, this story reminded me of the lines of Savitri. It's in page number 59. An outstretched hand is felt upon our lives. It is near us in unnumbered bodies and births. So, little below these lines, whatever the appearance we must bear, whatever our strong ills and present fate, when nothing we can see but drift and bail, a mighty guidance leads us still through all. So, when I heard the talk and also this story, I remember these lines came to me actually. Another thing is also there that faith, no, that faith also, I feel that it also should be granted by the grace only. Because there is a saying in Tamil also, because if you have to bow down at his feet, it is also possible only through his grace. So that is also there actually. So these things came up to me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Chitraji. I have put the lines that you shared. I have put it on the chat window for all of us to go through.
Yeah, it's in page
Yeah,
number 59.
yeah,
Sorry.
I have shared that in the
Yeah.
chat window. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, who would like to go next?
Monica, it's inevitable that by absolute routine thinking, we focus on the surface illness, and then we go from one to the next to the next to the next, and we don't go within till we ourselves train ourselves to go within and go deeper and try to surrender that illness totally.
Yeah,
It comes over time, but
yeah,
the initial reaction of every human being, I think of all of us in general, is that we do identify with the surface, and it is like, what next, what
yeah,
next. But
yeah.
this does shake us up a bit, that we have to go stronger inwards,
Hmm.
and it has to be a perpetual reminder,
Totally. Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
All the time it has to be, no, this is not the route, the road is wrong, change the route.
yeah.
And with my own self, I have experienced that when I started to delve more and more within and not without, the physicals all changed
Mm.
dramatically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yes. Yes. It almost feels like, that uh, feels like that the universe, the whole existence is for us, with us, and when we forget who we truly are, it's like these reminders that come in form of suffering, misery, diseases. They just kind of want to point us towards something, and if we are lucky enough, is if grace, we are porous to receive grace which is forever present, then one can just read the first signal itself, or then we just go ahead having more knocks on the door and maybe take more time to wake up to our truth. And that just actually tells us that the whole universe is almost conspiring for us to find our truth, to know who we truly are. Almost feels like that. And it will not settle down before we do that. It's kind of the love is so great that it's not going to settle down. Yeah.
Yes, I felt that. And it would be like when I would not wake up and the ego would be strong, and I would be thinking, it'll go. I'm a doctor. Next, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And then I would say, okay, doesn't matter, let the next thing come. And then the next and the next and the next came so many. It was like a shower. And I said, now why, mother? Why so many? Why are you
Yeah.
giving me so many at a time that I can't cope? And I
Yeah.
realized, wake up, buddy, it's time.
Beautiful.
And when I woke up, uh, automatically the body behaved, and the rest took over.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a game, ludo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the universe is conspiring because everything works towards wake up.
Yeah. 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 Totally. Totally. All our relationships, all our job and work related things, they all just work towards that only. So right. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, once you taste that faith, no, as you used to tell, that streak of faith,
Yes.
yeah, that will further and further take us, and that itself will increase. That itself will increase. I feel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Bilkul. Okay, so let's then go through the transcript a bit. So the first few lines Alubda shares is the root cause of all misery and suffering. That's what is shown in the prayer, and also the way out of it. I have also shared with many of you this metaphor that what pain is for the body, suffering is for the mind. So when I have put my hand in the fire and I experience pain, the body tells me that, hey, take it out of the fire, else you will get burnt. So it's the intelligence of the body in form of pain that it tells me to save myself, to take the hand out of fire. My hand is in the wrong place. And just like that, when suffering or misery is there in life, it's uh, it's a reminder from the intelligence of the being again that you are identifying at a wrong place. You are not the thought, you are not the feelings, you are not the body, you are not your story, you are not the character that you play. You are the one beyond all that, the untouched knowing, the untouched witnessing. And the more we kind of ignore this very obvious fact, more suffering appears in the life, and that just want to tell us that I'm identifying so strongly with my story, while I'm not my story. And the moment, even for a moment, when I'm able to drop the story, in those moments we feel liberated, we feel the sense of freedom, ease and clarity, in those few moments only. But then, as it is a longer path, it's a path which is, kind of goes on for a long time. One has to keep oneself immersed in the satsang, of any sort, because the mind has the old habit of again sticking to the story, again sticking to the story, again sticking to the story. And one has to again, like a small puppy, it keeps on going out of the house, so you just bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back, because it may just get itself killed on the road under a car. So that's what we have to do. We have to keep bringing the mind almost, back to its source, back to rest, back to rest, back to rest, back to its beingness, and not into the story. Because in the story, mind suffers. In the story, we suffer. So what, as Jyotsna ji already shared, that we normally catch just the surface causes, the outer causes, and that does not suffice, because one misery disappears, another one appears, because we have not taken the message what misery had for us. We wanted just to treat it with a external ointment, कि बस अभी के लिए शांति मिल जाए, बस अभी के लिए शांति मिल जाए. But we did not look deeply into why is it even cropping up at the very first place. What is the message that it has? Yeah. And then Alugda shares that the physical kind of a misery is even, that is also a misery, but more misery is the subtle kind of misery, the misery of thought, misery of emotions, misery of doubt, fear, anxiety, panic, all which cannot be even seen. Another person may be thinking that, wow, you are so well to do and everything is settled, your kids are settled, you are settled, but here the mind is so agitated, full of anger, full of anxiety, full of panic. What is going to happen in future, what will happen to me, and all that. So that is even a worser kind of a misery, because it cannot be even seen. Physical suffering can be seen, but this suffering, almost people kind of tend to ignore it for a longer duration of time, unless it becomes kind of anxiety attack, panic attack, or real severe depression. Yeah. And that is what we, in our sessions, and also through all these activities, that is the misery that we kind of deal with, right? We want to talk about that, because it's not our birthright to live in misery. Misery is just a messenger, and can we just read the message? Can we just read the message? Can we be sensitive enough to read the message? Because it is not our true nature. Misery is not our true nature. Yeah. And then mother talks about the atmosphere that you carry. You go into this atmosphere where people are just panicking, full of fear, and it'll just get on to you. You'll not be able to save yourself, because if one is not ripe enough, and the path has not been a longer path of faith, then all the fear, all the panic and anxiety from all the situations and people talking of, or the things in news and what's going around in the world, it kind of gets on into you. But if on the other hand you carry this contagion of goodwill, of cheerfulness, of a luminous trust and faith in divine, of peace and gratitude, then it's like a radical immunity, which can save us from all the sufferings. The pain still may be there, the physical pain still may be there, but one will not be in a misery, one will not be in a suffering kind of a state, that why me and why is this happening to me and all that, right? But we'll be able to go through all the physical pain without the suffering. Yeah. And then we come on to, what is the root cause of misery? What is the root cause of suffering? The root of all misery, according to spiritual understanding, is ignorance. Now, if we go to the word ignorance, it means something is being ignored. I'm ignoring something. It's not that something is to be achieved. I don't have to gain something new which I don't have right now. Misery is caused by ignorance. I am ignoring the very obvious. I'm ignoring the very essential truth of my being. It's almost like, we go to a new house, and all that we see is what the new house has. The furniture, the new interior decorations, maybe some people or curtains. So we only look at, mind is so tuned to look at things, objects, persons, and all that, that it completely ignores the space that made possible for that house to be. And just like that, we completely ignore, in the midst of focusing the mind, totally focusing on the thoughts, the feelings, the sense perceptions, we totally ignore the awareness that is making us see all that, that is making us feel all that. Completely ignore it, completely. It's almost, one goes to watch a movie, and all that one sees is the movie, the story, the drama. One totally ignores the screen on which the movie is happening. So it's that kind of an ignorance that we suffer from. We ignore that who I truly am is not the thought, feelings, sense perceptions, because they always come and go. They come and go, they come and go. Who am I? Who am I? Am I not the witnessing presence in which the whole drama is happening? And the moment in the middle of any suffering, I'm able to kind of remind myself of who I truly am, who I have been since the childhood. It is not possible that the suffering remains in that moment, at least, where I am in that kind of a reminding about my true nature, who I truly am. Am I the thought? Am I the story? Am I the sense perception? Am I the feeling? No, because I can see all that. They come and go. Even when the feeling goes, what remains is my presence. Even when the story is disappearing for a moment from my head, what remains is my presence. So I am that self-aware screen on which the drama of my life is happening. But it is so, so, so obvious that we completely ignore its presence. And then we, blame it onto past karmas and all these concepts that we talk of, older lives, and all the childhood wounds and all that. There is no end to the childhood wounds. There is no end to the past life kind of wounds or hurts that have been from there. So what to do? Yeah. And this this prayer, Alokda is sharing this prayer in times of this global crisis by this little virus. And he says that it is almost like a lesson of humility for each one of us, because a virus cannot be even seen. It does not have a physical existence which is very powerful, in the sense that it's like mighty, and I am the one who will just teach you a lesson. It is just a little something, and it has made the whole kind of globe just run around to its tunes. Those of us who think that we are the one, we have nuclear power, even nuclear power cannot destroy the virus. Isn't that amazing? A lesson in humility. And then the second thing that we ignore is the law of our truth. We are, when we are following our stories in the head, when we are following this ego in the head, which is me and my story, I am forever evading the law of truth. I'm not allowing, as if I've become myself a wall in front of me and my truth. So we prevent the unfoldment of truth to happen for so long as we continue following the demands and expectations of me and my story. So this is the other ignorance. And then suffering comes to remind us that there is something beautiful, there must be a way out, a true inner way. But when we don't want to learn the lesson, then just one after another some or the other trauma, tragedy just keeps on happening, which wants to point us as something, but we are not ready to heed, pay it a heed. Yeah, because we have not gotten to the root of the issue, that we have to actually touch the truth of the being and want, now begin to also manifest it out in outer life. Not only to touch, it's not only just to know who I truly am, it's also very important. The most part of sadhana is to act it out, act from this newer understanding of, if I am the knowing in this very moment, how would I act? What would be the action that I would take in this challenge or particular situation? Would I still be acting from greed? Would I still be acting from demands and expectations when I know that I am not my story? It is not possible that we are able to do that. So this is our sadhana. Now this is the most part of sadhana, that once we have known who we truly are, to kind of materialize its aspects in thoughts, feelings, day-to-day behaviors, activities, and sensations, and also in the way we deal with the world, in our relationships. Yeah. So the prayer begins here. June 18, 1913. To turn towards thee, unite with thee. Two separate things. So first is the turning towards our true nature. That happens gradually through these years of experience. To turn towards thee, unite with thee, become one with that knowing that I am, that knowing, the awareness which makes all the life situations possible. I am not my life situations. So to turn towards thee, unite with thee, to become one in felt experience with that knowing, live in thee, to live in and for that knowing, to act from that knowing, to act out in thought, feelings, and sensations and perceptions from that feeling of knowing of who am I, is supreme happiness. Now, when I am acting out, even if I am able to do it for a moment in a day, one actually feels a total liberation from all the bondages of emotions and feelings and relationships and all that. That is supreme happiness, Mother says. So to turn, these are the facets or aspects of the turning towards the divine or our true nature. To turn towards the divine, to unite with the, live as that knowing and for that knowing, not to live for the story in the head. Most part of our life is spent in living for the story in the head. Now I am stopping to do that. Now I am going to live for the knowing who I am. And for thee is supreme happiness, unmixed joy, immutable peace. It is to breathe infinity, to soar in eternity, no longer feeling one's limits, escape from time and space. Now, why is it said that it is so vast and infinite? Because knowing has no limits. Awareness has no limits. Awareness is not bound to the mind or the body. So once I become to live in this knowing of me more and more and more as that aware presence in the being, it is not possible that I feel limited by the body, by the mind, or by my story. It is not a possibility. How can space feel limited by the presence of buildings? How can screen feel limited by the presence of movie going over it? Screen very well knows that I am the screen. One movie goes, another one comes. Nothing is going to happen to me. And the space also is so much incertitude, because one tsunami comes, all the building gone, all the bodies gone, but the space still remains. Nothing happened to the space. It was forever untouched. And that is the quality of aware presence. Nothing happens to that presence within the being. Nothing happens. It is forever untouched. No matter how many traumas I may have gone through the childhood in the past lives, nothing has touched that aware presence. So that is very, very liberating uh, if one lives in that. It's almost like, Mother shares breathing infinity. You are breathing infinity and you are soaring in timelessness. Because when I'm not trapped in thought, feelings, or the body, then I'm out of time. Time cannot limit me. Time and space will not be able to limit me anymore. So this is the perfect recipe Alokda shares for true liberation. Liberation in the midst of life, not a liberation which is to be got somewhere going into the forests. Right here in my own home or walking on the street, if I touch this knowing within, if I touch the aware presence within, that I am that presence and nothing has forever touched me, that is true liberation. And there we find an inner door. It opens further realms of inner exploration open for us. And then, as we also share in Kabir Dohas, that, sukh mein sumiran na kiya, dukh mein karte yaad, kahe Kabir ta das ki kaun sune faryad. So if we have not practiced this in everyday life, when something bigger comes, something really kind of bigger than our day-to-day lives comes, then we'll not be able to practice this knowing or being aware presence while in the middle of that crisis. And that makes very important that it becomes a part of our daily life. It becomes the very grain and fabric of our daily life. Only then life can become an exploration. Yeah. And then Sri Aurobindo, when he was asked that if is it true that when we are dying and if we take the name of God, we are liberated, then Sri Aurobindo reminds that well, it works only if you remember the other couplet of Gita also, where Sri Krishna shares, "Therefore, O Arjuna, remember me at all times." Remembrance of my true nature at all times, as much as capacity. We grow in this capacity. Forgetting becomes lesser and lesser, and more we live in that remembrance of who we truly are. Otherwise, when the real battle comes, we are so restless and agitated because the old habit of the mind has been to live in the story. So even in the midst of the battle, we will be actually living out the story and not living out who I truly am. Not living out from the knowing of our truth, rather living from ignorance of the truth. Yeah. So there comes the practice of daily sadhana. This is our sadhana. To turn towards the unite with thee. This Alokda stresses on this, that it's not just enough to philosophically turn towards that, yes, I know in my head that I am this knowing. Not only that, but in our felt experiences, have that experience more and more, more and more, that yes, I see that all the experiences come and go. What remains is this presence. So I must be this presence because I don't come and go. So it must become our felt experience and not just theory. And then the importance of being human. Only human birth has been granted where we can actually unite with our truth. Rest of the animal world, they are in their truth, but they are in oblivion in their truth. They're not aware of it. Yes, Shreya.
Sorry, Monica, to interrupt. I wanted to ask, so what does it mean to unite with thee? I mean, when you say that it
Yeah.
has to be a felt experience and not just.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and when Alokta says, don't just turn towards thee, but merge with thee.
Merge. Yes. Yes. So how we begin on the path is that, for example, we hear words and we maybe read books or listen to these talks, maybe have some felt experiences where we see that there is something more to life I'm missing, right? I may not be able to touch it right now, but there is something more. So this is how mentally we build on it. So in the beginning, mental concepts may help. But then what I understood from these lines, and you are all welcome to share after I finish this part, to turn to thee and to unite and merge with thee. Now, what does this mean? Now, when we say turn to thee, so some inner turning is happening. Now, usually the mind is always focused on external sense perceptions. A person in my life story, the job, the work, sense perceptions of the body. The mind is almost always engaged in some or the other focus. It is always giving attention to some or the other external thing in life. Now, when I refer to my own body and sense perceptions, they are also external because mind is focusing somewhere, right? Now, when we say turn towards thee, it's the turning away of the mind from the external sense perceptions. Now, the mind is not always absorbed in always, in a person, in a story, in a relationship, in a bodily sense perceptions. So, all these focuses of attention are almost kind of getting reduced to a minimum when this turning towards thee happen, turning inwards happen. What do we mean by uniting with thee? That is something which is very subtle. I'm not sure. Let's see how much I can succeed in this. Uh, I've been pointing at this in all of the sessions lately, that there is something in us which has never changed. There is a part of us which has forever, ever remained the same. It has not aged. Even when we talk to people who have, gone into their 70s, 80s, 90s, they will know that the body may have aged, but there is a part of them that still feels that they are still a child. Something hasn't changed. What is that continuity which hasn't changed? And if we go closer to it, we see that that is the knowing presence, the aware presence that is there throughout since my childhood. I may have a very troubled childhood, and yet I was forever aware of that childhood. I may have a very troubled marriage. Yes, I went through the upheavals, but there was this awareness as if like a thread continuing and watching all the drama happen. So, this thread of continuing aware presence never breaks and has never broken through all my experiences, whether they were high experiences or kind of low and depressive experiences. That thread of awareness has never broken. Now, it is a different matter that I talk about it. And it is yet another practical fact that you yourself feel yourself as that, yes, I must be this aware presence because I have forever remained even in the absence of so-called highs and downs and lows and ups. So I must be this aware presence. And that is what is meant to me. That is what I resonated with. That when it says to merge and unite with thee, means to live as that aware presence. Not just in theory, but in practical life. Not to completely ignore it in day to day life. That I am, yes, that awareness which makes all the drama happen, owing to which I sense, perceive, even the words that you are listening. Now, a dead ear cannot hear those words. A dead eye cannot read those lines. What is making the lines being read? What is making the ear listen to those words? That presence, which is boundless, which is limitless, is my truth. So, this is what I personally related with. And I would invite if Chitra ji and Jyotsna ji or you have anything to share at this.
Yes, Monica, that from that awareness, you can watch everything actually.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You can watch everything, even though something you feel it affects you, but it will immediately, I mean, dissolve actually.
Dissolve,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
because of that awareness, everyone has that. No, everyone has that.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
but yeah, that feeling will become more and more when you, I mean, how can I don't know how to
Yes,
explain that.
Chitra, yeah, I think I understand what you're
Yeah,
saying, because most of the times in daily lives we ignore this aware
yeah,
presence.
correct,
So
correct.
the more slow down we become in our lives, the more slowing down is
Yeah,
happening, the
correct.
more I become it, like in 100 moments, now in 5 moments I am aware of that presence.
Yeah.
And then it becomes solid for me, it becomes real for me. Yeah.
And also, when you told about that age, no, yeah, it
Yes.
is true actually.
Yeah.
Though I'm actually now touching 60, but I don't feel like that.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I feel as if still I am a child of mother. Actually, that feeling is there.
Yeah.
With that wonder, you can meet the life. Actually,
Beautiful.
so
Yes.
that is that united feeling. I think.
Yes. Yes.
But
And it's also
not.
ageless,
Yeah,
ageless.
yeah, yeah.
Beautiful.
On a personal note, what I have found is that once you have tasted that
Yeah.
intense awareness once, twice, it becomes a kind of an addiction. And
Addiction. Yeah.
you want to go back to it, you want to
Correct,
you want to return there only. You don't want to stay in this mundane stuff. You want to
correct.
you want to go back and say, let it come again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you automatically slow down.
Bilkul. Bilkul.
Yeah, you calm down, you slow down. All immaterial things just I'll shed like clothes.
Yes.
Relationships which are immaterial, they don't matter at all. You don't want to maintain them.
Mm.
And something which held a lot of importance earlier, no, it doesn't hold anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it does. I think it is initial inculcating, and then the persistence. Once you've tasted it, it's like a nasha,
Bilkul. Bilkul. Bilkul.
a heady sensation. It doesn't leave you.
Yeah. 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 I think that's why Kabir also says that when I taste this Ram Ras, the nectar of the divine, it almost like I have tasted it, and yet I want more and more and more. So you are right, it's totally an addiction, and because it is so full, so rich, this inner space, this knowing that yes, there is nothing, there is no secret to it. It is so obvious. This presence, this awareness is so obvious that there is no secret to it. There is, it is just that you have to really, as you are saying, that you have to feel it in your felt experiences more and more and more. You have to be it, not feel it, because it's not an object, it cannot be felt, but you just know it through experience. And that is what means uniting with thee, because only through experience we know that yes, there is some truth to it, it's not only mere words. Yeah. And then Alokda shares, so it is not enough to unite in some part with the divine, but to live for the divine in everything that we do, every action, every thought, every feeling, all energies must become a part and parcel of divine service. And now, when he says divine service, it's the service of that aware presence. It's almost a guiding light. It will tell where to go, where not to go. It just, one just kind of hear the dictates and follows the dictates, and it's not a voice, it does not have any word. It's more like I just know this is the way to go. There is more like a knowing, for as a fact, I know this is the right path for me. I know there I need not go. So there is more of knowing rather than mental reasoning, analytical, logical concepts, or rest of it. And then once this is most of the sadhana that we are at, the sadhana is that now every action, every thought, every feeling is serving this knowing or the aware presence. Earlier I have been serving the ego, the story in the head. Have we not been? We have all tasted how it is to serve the demands and expectations of the story in the head, of the character that I play in the story. Now, what is the sadhana? That each and every thought and action and feeling will be serving this aware presence. And that is how we align with our inner truth. This is what alignment with inner truth is. Because most of the times, what will happen in the beginning and also later is that old tendencies may come up. I may go back in the story and may again act from the story. But then the good thing will be that immediately I will realize that, oh, this was not the way to go, this was not the way to go, and one just kind of looks at it and moves on. So this is the knowing, this is the knowledge, inner knowledge that connects us to this deeper truth. And then Alokda also shares that even in this external world, whenever we have found happiness, we have seen that the happiness that seems to have been coming from the external word, people, situation, it is so fleeting. It is so fleeting in the nature. The same person who could give me happiness a few years ago is unable. He cannot, because no person can give us happiness. And whenever happiness was felt in life, if we look closely at those moments of happiness, it's only that in those moments the seeking self was absent. The cloud of seeking self was absent, and that is why the blue sky of ever present happiness shone through, and that is what I felt. So it was not the external person or external situation that brought me happiness. It was just the unveiling of the blue sky of ever present peace and happiness that happened. And I kind of, claimed it on the other person that brought me happiness, because I did not look carefully what exactly happened. But when we turn within, when we turn to our truth, to our true nature, we see that it is not a joy which is troubled with sorrow. It's not that the sorrow may not come. Sadness may still come. Sadness, sorrow may still come like visitors. But that will not be able to sway me so badly that I'm kind of, left panting for a breath of joy. More and more, this solidity of me as the ever present sky of awareness, presence, peace, and happiness will become solidified, over time in my experiences. So it is a peace that no one can ever take away. Meera says, chor na loote, in her bhajan, payo ji maine ram ratan dhan payo. She says that nobody can churao this, nobody can rob this away from me. और जितना मैं खर्च करती हूँ उतना बढ़ता चला जाता है. The more I spend it, the more it gains power. And the more I act from knowing that I am this aware presence, the more I gain strength to live as that aware presence. Or the more I ignore it, the more weaker I get. That is the signal. And then one will not be harassed by what is going to happen with the virus or some physical illness or all these things that go about in the life. Things may still go on. I may still take care of whatever is to be done externally, but there would not be the need of the needless panic and anxiety and fear and doubt and all that. One will go through that as any other experience in life. It will not become a big deal now, because the big deal has been taken care of already. And then this story that Chitraji also shared, I'll just repeat it for Shreya because she has not read the transcript or gone through the talk. So there is this husband and wife going on a boat, and husband is a warrior carrying a sword, and there is a big storm, and the lady really gets troubled. She doesn't know what is going to happen, and what will happen to us in this storm and all that. While she sees that the man is not anxious and disturbed, the man is just sitting very calmly and looking at the storm. So after some time, the lady asks the husband कि भाई मतलब what kind of a person are you aren't troubled with the storm, what would happen, how to save ourselves and all that. So the husband takes out his own sword and puts it at the neck of the lady, and the lady begins to laugh, and he says, why are you laughing? So she says that I am laughing because you are my husband, you obviously cannot kill me, would not kill me because you love me. So he says, there is my answer, because I know that the Lord loves me so much, even when he's making us go through this storm of life or storm of challenges. He has some better plan for us, so I need not bother about that or become anxious about that. And that is almost a beautiful story one can remind ourselves of, uh, going through rough patches in life, which we all of us go through. That if we really have this faith that yes, whatever happens in the universe happens for some larger good which I am not aware of right now, then it can kind of carries us through that little faith that we have. And there comes the liberation from anxiety, from fear, from panic, from saving our little selves. Yeah. Yes. And there was this little exercise that Alokda shared, that when we are going through trouble, or even when we are not going through real troubles, actually, we can do this beautiful meditation that if we imagine, go into space and imagine billions and billions of galaxies whirling and moving in space. And if we look at the vastness of it all, we will see that it's just a moment in time, the challenge that I may go through, whatever I'm going through. We almost feel like little nothings, and it does not matter. There is no need to worry that much. There's no need to be in anxiety and fear, rather to take a right action and go through the challenge. Yeah. And then further, Mother says in the prayer, why do men flee from these boons as though they feared them? It almost feels like we are so afraid of owning ourselves fully, because we think that, oh my God, it will be too much of a power. I'll not be able to handle it, maybe. So Mother shares that why do men flee from the divine? you know uh, People turn to spirituality only when they are actually troubled deeply, otherwise no one would care to turn to spirituality. And Mother wonders at this, why do men flee from these boons as though they feared them? And in the beginning, what appears to us is that my normal life will be taken away from me. But is that so? Is that so? Because the mind is so used to living images and stories, the mind now creates a new image and a new story about spirituality, that what is a spiritual life like. It is a dull life, slow life, bogus life, or whatever. But is it like that? One must tread on the path and only then decide, and not just conceptualize about that. What a strange thing is ignorance. Mother wonders, that ignorance is such a thick veil at times, that it is the source of all suffering. Because why is it the source of all suffering? Because it keeps me away from my truth, my true nature. Ignoring my true nature keeps me away from my true nature, and that is why it is the root of all suffering. How do we feel when we are trying to fit in somebody else's clothes? We don't feel comfortable. We feel highly, highly uncomfortable. And that suffering is just a signal telling me that, you are putting somebody else's clothes on. And when in life I become somebody else, which I'm actually not supposed to become, suffering comes, telling me that you are not who you believe yourself to be, who you think yourself to be. because you are not fitting in these clothes. You are not that. And then the importance of pain comes, because pain comes to us as if it wants to poke us from that inertia or dullness of life in which I have gotten myself into, trapped into. In Savitri, where ignorance is, there is pain. Why? Because one has to move from ignorance. That is what the path of the soul is. Man loves the ignorance fathering his pain. We live in emotional pain for eons. That I have been in this emotional pain for eons, and I have been the one who have been fathering my own pain, my own suffering. I have been fueling it. And what is ignorance? We already discussed about this. Ignorance is not knowing our true nature, ignoring our true nature, not knowing our soul, not knowing our truth, the divine. And then once we fall a trap into our comfort zones, the old tendencies and patterns of behavior and living, we are given this pain as a stick which wants to poke us and move us from our comfort zones, where we are actually getting rotten. And rotting is not our true nature. We have to live, we have to be alive in this life and not rot through life. How miserable that obscurity which keeps men away from the very thing which would bring them happiness, and subjects them to this painful school of ordinary existence, fashioned entirely from struggle and suffering. And Alugda shares here about the ordinary school, that I forget who I truly am. I live in ignorance for a longer time. And then suffering or pain or disease or illness or hardships in life come and try to wake me up from that oblivion or from that ignorance. So that is the ordinary school of pain and suffering. While the other school is also where once I learn my lesson, I need not have suffering in my life. And then we have I think he then talks about another kind of schooling, which is following the path of truth. Now suffering has done its job. Now the next phase of life is manifesting my truth out in life, manifesting the unfoldment of truth, my unique essence in life. And that is the task each one, gazillions of us, each one of us are here to do, to manifest the same divine truth according to our own inherent natures, swabhavas, the permutation of combinations that we have been given in this life. We manifest it out in a different, unique manner. That is who we truly are. That is our individual psychic personality, as Mother says, when we begin to manifest truth out in our life. And then suffering has done its job. Then there is no need for suffering to exist. Yeah, so that is where we have a choice. So Alugda towards the end shares, we have a choice whether to go through the school of suffering. We all do, pain and misery, or go through the school of the divine, which is through the straight sunlit path opening from the depths of heart towards his vastness and infinity. And that is the next phase and total unfoldment of the divine truth of all our beings. And yeah, as soon as we are capable enough and ready enough to make that choice, we make it, and then the task of suffering is over. It is not needed anymore. Yeah. So, and any comments, any thoughts here, any questions? It's almost like it's the divine unfoldment. The divine delved into unconsciousness, and now it is the path towards consciousness, the journey of the soul. And there is no need for my story to exist. Now, I may go through still upheavals in life and ups and downs, but I can go through without any story also. And I see that the story just creates more and more misery. So do I still want to keep on holding to the stories in the head and fueling them and propagating them in each and every aspect of life? And then I see that maybe I'm done with the story part. I don't need to hold on to the stories, and suffering vanishes within that moment immediately, once the message has been read, almost like a postman which comes to give you the message, and once he delivers the message, there is no need for the postman to stay forever in my house. Yeah.
I have found that there is something, I call it selective amnesia.
Yeah.
Those painful events, or those painful times in life when one has, which one each human being is being subjected to, if you just decide to wipe them off, they just disappear and they
Yeah.
don't play the story in the head at all. They are just gone. And once that happens, the path to reach the point where you have to become aware intensely with becomes very short.
Yeah. Yeah.
This happened to me yesterday.
Mm.
I was getting some bad thoughts and all, and
Mm.
then in about 4 or 5 seconds, I said,
Mm.
"Where am I heading?
Mm.
No, not required." And
Mm.
you just throw it out, and so the reaction time goes on reducing with time.
बिल्कुल. बिल्कुल.
Once you get this selective amnesia, you just wipe it clean.
Mm.
You just tell the story, "I don't want to have nothing more to do with you anymore,"
Mm. Yeah.
and it goes.
Yeah.
It's like that bad friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Yes. It's almost like once there was this example that I used, that imagine that you have to catch a train, huh? And you are there on the station, train station, having chai and pakoras and everything. And as long as the train is standing, there is nothing important in your life that you have to attend to. You are having the chai and pakoda and maybe complaining how meaty is the chai, how sweet is the tea, and maybe how spicy is the pakoda, and you are complaining, you are still having it. So as long as the train is not moving, I will be complaining, involved in stories about the chai and pakoda. But the moment the train begins to move and I have to catch that train, all the rest, the chai pakoda and the stories about it, will become really very, very trivial. And what I will care about is how do I catch the train. So it's almost like that. Once I have the taste of what really matters most in my life, all the chai pakoda and the stories about the chai pakoda becomes really so trivial, as you just said, that it is not worth going and spending time into that arena at all, because I have something which is much, much, much more important waiting for me to attend, uh, to attend to. So otherwise all the chai pakoda stories really appear so, so big, but in the moment of train leaving, nothing appears that big. And again, the same example I used it in a different way, that if I have to catch a flight, and somebody insults me on the way, my flight is going, I don't have time uh, at all for the fellow to that tell him that, oh, I am not worthy of this insult and how dare you and all that, because I have something really important waiting for me. But do we have that something really important waiting for me? And if we don't have at the moment, all these trivia of the stories will appear so, so big, almost a, what do you say in Hindi, rai ka pahad. But in the moment when I have already tasted, I've gotten a glimpse of that peace and equanimity and stillness of the being. Once that becomes important for me, then everything else will actually lose a kind of grip, over my moments. And then it will be, as you said, the reaction time will be so reduced gradually as we go ahead, because the older tendencies may still come, but they will not have the same grip over me, the same engaging capacity over me as they used to have earlier, when I was very wily and kind of attending to them all the time. Yeah.
Beautiful, Monica. Very
Yeah,
simple and like that story, that husband and wife traveling in a boat. Yeah,
yeah,
it is really very
yes,
nice.
yeah,
In a very simple way, you explained it. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's very true.
Yeah,
Very nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have realized that the most intense interactions, which stories which have usually come up with your own closest relatives or your closest near and dear ones, are the ones that you have to be successful in erasing.
Mm,
The
mm,
moment you manage to do that,
yeah.
there is a kind of a victory which comes in you and you say, yes, I could do
Yes.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've forgiven the person, you've gone beyond it, and the other person is left wondering that "ये वो इसको हुआ क्या है? Why she not react? Why is she not feeling?
Yeah.
You used to react to this so badly, and I just said one day that I don't remember a thing of it. So
Beautiful.
just leave it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So that going ahead, putting it behind you, and just going ahead.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that did the trick.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's almost an act of self-love, when we care more for our peace and equanimity rather than all what people say and, all the stories that we have in the head about the past and the future. So this is what is real, true self-love, that you care more for the peace and progress and going ahead rather than, sticking on to the past and stories and what wasn't met and was what expectation or demand was rejected or what was met, because there is no end, there is no end, almost just like Brahman has no end, the divine has no end, the Maya also has no end, because Maya is the shadow of the divine, so it's the properties are almost the same, if I can call them properties. So there is no end to Maya also, the illusion also. And that is why Kabir also says that as long as we have breath in the body, the sadhana continues. One can never say that I am over it, because one doesn't even know about the next moment, what can grip you again in its grip. And that keeps us grounded. Yeah. So great. Yeah. So, Shreya, would you like to read the prayer?
Sure.
Yeah.
To turn towards thee, unite with thee, live in thee, and for thee is supreme happiness, unmixed joy, immutable peace. It is to breathe infinity, to soar in eternity, no longer feel one's limits, escape from time and space. Why do men flee from these boons as though they feared them? What a strange thing is ignorance, that source of all suffering. How miserable that obscurity which keeps men away from the very thing which would bring them happiness and subjects them to this painful school of ordinary existence fashioned entirely from struggle and suffering.
Yes. This reminds me, the moment that you read this sentence, why do men flee from these boons as though they feared them? Imagine that there is a fellow who is born in chains, and as long as the moment he has become conscious, he has found himself in chains. So chains are nothing but a part of his body, because he has never seen himself without the chains. So when a friend comes, when he's adult now, and a friend comes and he says, "Why are you, having these chains on you?" So he would actually wonder at first, "What chains? I am not having any chains." But then slowly, the friend would remind that these are chains. You are actually chained. You don't even know. And the first time when the chains are no longer over his body, he would actually feel very weird. He would not feel himself. because it is just the old habit of being in the chains for such a long time that I don't feel comfortable. I think that is where it is said, why do men flee from these boons? It is nothing but a bad habit that we have of not knowing, not living in the knowing of who we truly are. We are so used to our chains that when someone comes, like a friend, come closer and closer, and he wants to free, or at least show us that we are living in chains and we can be free immediately right now, we almost want to despise that friend, or want to throw him away, because all I have in my life is these things that I have been born with. So how can you say that these are chains? So in the beginning, when we are getting rid of these tendencies, when we are getting to know that these tendencies are not serving us nice, it actually comes as a threat, because we have not known ourselves as without those tendencies. And that's why the initial discomfort of getting rid of the story, and which is perfectly auspicious discomfort, it's almost like a very shubh discomfort, like labor pains, in labor pains also one goes through discomfort, but it is an auspicious discomfort because it is giving birth to something new. And just like that, one needs to go through this discomfort of losing the story and tendencies, and living now a new life without the stories, because it's an auspicious discomfort which will give birth to a newer self. Yeah, so yeah, just reminded me of that thing as you were reading this. Yeah.
As if there is any problem, if you are not worrying, it is
Yeah.
a it is again a sin. It seems for a long time that tendency was there in me actually.
That
The
why am I
problem
not
comes, you
worrying?
have to,
Why?
yeah, you have to
Yeah.
worry only.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. That's a very good point. Yeah. Yeah. Even a few relatives may come, and of close
Yeah,
family
they will
may
ask.
tell
Yeah.
you, why are
How
you
you
not
can
worrying?
remain like that without worrying? How you are remaining like that? So then
Yeah.
they again start worrying. Oh, that.
I must worry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yes. Great.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Monica.
Thank you for joining.
Beautiful session. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
session today,
Yeah, yeah.
Monica.
Thank you
Really
so
Very
much.
good.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Good to
Thank
know.
you.
You
Thank
were
you,
totally
Monica.
inspired.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you were talking with a flow where you were unstoppable, and it was very, very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
A
everyone.
beautiful
Bye-bye.
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Shreya.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Monica.
Jyotsna. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chitraji. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.